Prime Minister Mark Carney is calling for de-escalation in the Middle East following U.S. strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. In a new post this morning on X, Prime Minister Carney says he spoke with U.S. President Donald Trump overnight, where they focused on de-escalating the conflict in the Middle East and their commitment to a stronger NATO looking ahead to this week's summit. For a closer look at Canada's role in this widening conflict, I'm joined by Lloyd Axworthy, former Foreign Affairs Minister in the Chrétien government. Good morning. Welcome back.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
So our Prime Minister, along with several European leaders, have all called for a return to negotiations, to the negotiating table in the Middle East conflict. But how influential are those calls right now?
Well, I think this is what you call a defining moment. This week is going to be about as turbulent as the weather you just sort of put on your screen, because there's choices to be made by the Americans, by the Iranians, by the Israelis, and by the larger international community to try to bring down the temperature, to cool things down, to continue the metaphor. And I think that the position taken by Mr. Carney is the right one. I think where there is going to be an opportunity to maybe put some framework or some sort of mitigation on this will be at the NATO meetings. President Trump will be in attendance for a 24-hour period. That's a time when I think the diplomats around the table can make their concerns, I hope, in a unified, clear way, that the United States has now made its intervention, and it should leave it there, and we should begin to sort of determine what the next steps are to try to bring the other major problems of Gaza and Ukraine, where civilians are being killed nightly, to an end. This is a very crucial time for the world.
It will also be very telling to see which voices President Trump is listening to the loudest. During this summit, Trump's demands are going to likely be front and center. And as you mentioned, he's there just a 24-hour period. So then how much of this summit overall is going to be focused on the Middle East? And what kind of response are you expecting to see from other NATO members?
Well, I mean, the big agenda item at NATO will be the proposal to increase defense spending 5% GDP. Just to give you a little sort of background, if Canada sort of adopted and had to be that, we would have to triple the amount of money we now spend on defense. It would just blow the budget apart. So, so that in itself is a question, but I think there's no doubt that particular issue will be much affected by the discussion, not just of the Middle East conflict, but I think, Anne-Marie, we have to put this in the context. We are having aggression around the world. The efforts that have gone on for close to over a century to try to find ways of limiting the impact on civilians and reduce the use of arms, we're now taking a reverse course. We're militarizing everything. Everything is based on security. I'm hoping that there some attention will be paid to diplomacy and peacemaking.
Well, let me ask you about that then. In these conversations, we use the metaphor of the weather and of storms coming, but there seems to be two schools of thought as we approach this summit. One school says it is time for different action, and the other school is like, we need to slow this down. We need to pull back. So when those two converge, what does that look like?
Well, I really hope that at the NATO meetings, they will converge around the idea that once you open a war, you're never sure where you unleash the dogs or where they're going to go. And I think that what's happening now is going to be really crucial in terms of not just the Middle East, but in terms of the broader stability in the world. One of the things that really at stake, Anne-Marie, is the whole question of how do we control nuclear proliferation? And I think we hope this might be a way of putting a wedge into what the Iranians were doing. But at the same time, there are other countries who are also nuclear, including Israel, but also have to show that they are also prepared to put more of a lock on the use of nuclear weapons. So there's a lot at stake that has a much broader implication. As much as we're focusing on the direct conflict right now, I think it has consequences that really have very wide-ranging impact.
Just our last question here. When we talk about this increase of spending, we know how long it's taken us to get to be able to even commit to 2% spending. Now there's talk of it going anywhere between 3.5 and 5%. Can Canada do that? How would we commit to that? What would that look like?
It would look very drastic in terms of the kind of sort of public policy we have now, which has been very much designed to help support, in many cases, the equity issues and the area to deal with things like climate change and the changing nature of our economy. As I mentioned, I think a quick, if you took that 5% and put it into an estimate, we're talking about tripling the size of our present defense budget.
Yeah.
We're now talking, I mean, that is extraordinary. It's going to be hard to determine where the 2% is going to come from. And I and others are concerned that the government is going to reach into our reducing our diplomacy and our development, the other things which help provide stability. So this creates a real conundrum. Maybe 5% is an aspirational thing to keep Mr. Trump happy. I think it would be a drastic change in the whole Canadian character and what we think is important as a way we govern ourselves.
Independent governance seems to be very important for President Trump, and we're out of time to push that point. But to your point about President Trump and his criticisms of NATO, who contributes, who does not, how much America puts in, we haven't talked about that yet this morning. There is concern of that coming up again in these talks today, giving him more autonomy. Lloyd Axworthy, former Foreign Affairs Minister of the Chrétien government. I'm sorry that we're out of time, but thank you for joining us this morning.
Maybe again, Anne-Marie. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Anytime. If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.